Story 1. Even while managing your handicap creates challenges, if you do a good job of managing it, you won't be deemed disabled enough to be eligible for any social care support that you'll probably need to keep managing and have a fulfilling life. Story 2. Everybody wants a dream partner, but very few people are willing to be the dream partner by working on themselves. Story 3. I will be charged $50, similar to a doctor or therapist, if I cancel an appointment. There are no repercussions if they phone and cancel as I am leaving the building. Story 4. When I ask my employer for free money, they ask if I need a mental checkup. They have no problem expecting free work though. Story 5. The two-tiered justice system. It is much easier to get away with a crime or get rid of charges if you are rich. Story 6. Children have to respect their elders, but elders can treat them poorly and they have to be okay with it. Story 7. Political double standards. If one party does something, it's cool, but if the other party does it, it's a crime. Right is right, wrong is wrong. Story 8. Pretty privileges. Sure, everyone wants to date someone attractive, that's okay. But the way it affects career and even how judges or doctors treat you is wild, and nobody seems to care. Story 9. Birth control. My wife and I decided early on we were never going to have kids. For 10 years, she was on Depo-Provera birth control. They recommend coming off it after that period of time due to links to osteoporosis. So she did. Over the course of those 10 years, she told the nurses that she would like to have her tubes tied as we didn't want to have children. And at every decision point, she was met with resistance in case she or I ever changed our minds. Once she came off birth control, I said if they weren't prepared to tie her tubes, I'd get a vasectomy. My presence barely graced the chair of my general practitioner's office, and I was referred. No, what if you change your mind? No, your biological clock is ticking. No, what if your wife wants kids one day? I was scheduled for the procedure before anyone even asked, "How many kids do you have?" I harbor no ill will in getting a vasectomy. It's the least I could do since she spent 10 years dealing with birth control with possible life-altering side effects. I openly advocate for it, given I could have been back at work the next day and suffered zero side effects. However, it is despicable how a man's bodily autonomy is completely within their control, whereas a woman can be told they can't choose what to do with their body when they know, with complete certainty and devotion, what they want. Story 10. The wealthy and elite, including our public servants, have an entirely different criminal justice system than the rest of us. Story 11. Rich people hiding their money and not paying taxes, whether through illegal tax evasion or exploiting all the available loopholes, and receiving government subsidies, is considered good business sense. Poor people receiving a few extra dollars from social aid programs so they can survive are labeled as useless leeches. Literally, every method people use to acquire and maintain wealth involves some form of scam. Story 12. I hate the fact that at work, when my manager is having a bad day, they're allowed to take it out on me and my coworkers. But when I'm having a bad day, I can't take it out on the manager. Easily the worst double standards I have to put up with at least a few times a week. I can deal with rude customers because they just come and go, and I don't see them again. My manager, I have to see them several times a week. You get so sick of their behavior. Story 13. There are companies claiming that they can't find good workers who are skilled, loyal, committed, work hard, and get tasks completed. Now, be over 55 years old with decades of a proven track record in that work and apply for that job. Silence. Everyone says they despise job discrimination, and everyone claims they are dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion principles, yet you can visit company staff pages online and not find anyone except maybe the owner or founder who has gray hair. No discrimination? Age discrimination is widespread, but there are no protections in place to prevent it. So, talented individuals over 55 looking for work are overlooked. Story 14. No one is above the law. Rich top 1% pay to avoid consequences of their lawbreaking. Everyone is equal before the law. Politicians and famous people are literally getting away with murder, rape, and treason. Story 15. Pro-lifers are often the same crowd that does not want to pay a dime to help a mother raise their kids. Story 16. When a job essentially requires you to submit a 2 weeks notice so they can replace you, but they will terminate your employment without giving you a 2 week notice to find a new job. Story 17. Idolizing motherhood but treating mothers poorly, giving them very little maternity leave, charging exorbitant fees for childbirth, and offering no assistance such as affordable childcare, even though you are forced to return to work before fully healed. Story 18. Gender expectations, where different standards apply to men and women in terms of behavior, appearance, and career choices. Story 19. If rich people ruin something, then they are pranksters. If poor or middle class people ruin something, then they weren't raised right. Story 20. Did a college dean say that if two intoxicated students have sex, the male is considered the rapist because it is the male's responsibility to seek consent? Story 21. Hourly wage workers have to clock in and are written up if they're even 1 minute late. Management, who are not on a salary, doesn't have to clock in, and it's never an issue if they're 10 to 15 minutes late. Story 22. The constant negativity towards disabled people, who are labeled as merely lazy and unwilling to work, is disheartening. Meanwhile, employers often prefer to hire someone without a disability because it is perceived as less expensive than making reasonable adjustments or managing sick leave and doctor or hospital appointments. I developed a chronic illness approximately 5 years ago. Since then, whenever I am open about my symptoms, people assume that I am not trying hard enough. It is deeply painful because I exert every bit of effort I can every single day. I have a passion for working, and I view it as a method of managing my pain. I experience chronic pain daily, and staying busy with work usually helps distract me from my discomfort. Since 2019, I've had 5 different jobs. I lost 2 of them due to my illness and almost lost 2 others because of taking too much sick leave. My current job has shown the most understanding regarding my poor health, but I live in constant fear whenever I need to take sick leave. Story 23. Rich folks get praised for their wealth, while poor folks face prejudice because of where they come from. Story 24. Hatred of the kind, patient, poor, and suffering, while idolization of the rich, influential, greedy, pushy, and cruel. Story 25. I work as a caregiver part-time. Some powers of attorney won't allow men to shower, diaper, etc. the client because they are men. I am not any more qualified to wipe because I have a vagina. It will never stop making me mad. Story 26. Employers expect 2 weeks notice. They don't offer 2 weeks pay when they terminate employees for performance. Story 27. In my country, New Zealand, a lot of people think those who are on any kind of welfare assistance are lazy and stealing from taxpayers. Many of these same people think business owners who cheat on their taxes and hide their assets are clever and to be admired. Story 28. The idea that everyone needs to be perfect all the time throughout their entire lives, or else they should be canceled and have their lives ruined if they make a mistake even once, is problematic. We all have skeletons in our closets. There isn't a single person alive who hasn't made a mistake at some point. Story 29. Wealthy individuals consuming cocaine or other drugs are often seen as party enthusiasts, not deserving of jail time simply for having some fun. On the other hand, less affluent people using cocaine are quickly labeled as wasteful and criminal. Story 30. If a woman sleeps with a bunch of guys, she's considered a slut. But if I do it, I'm considered gay. Story 31. People think that raising the minimum wage will make prices go up, but do not notice that when workers are replaced with machines to save money, prices do not go down. Story 32. Women suffering from domestic abuse is, rightly, condemned. Men suffering from domestic abuse are usually laughed at and dismissed. Story 33. Rule for thee but not for me. Too many people wanting to argue that religious rules need to be in place because it is decent or how it should be, but also do not want to follow the same set of rules when it comes to them. I actually cannot wrap my head around it, to be honest. Story 34. Having enough to pay rent but not enough to buy a house. This statement is somewhat simplified, but when expanded upon, I believe people understand the essence. Story 35. A child who throws tantrums, takes things from others without fair trade, and leaves messes for others to clean up is disciplined by authority figures. An executive that does this on a grand scale is so common it has become a trope. Story 36. My coworkers in a cocktail bar asked, "Can I go for a smoke?" The boss replied, "Yeah, sure bud, go ahead." I then asked, "Can I just chill in the kitchen and do nothing for 5 minutes?" The boss inquired, "Why? Is something wrong?" And then added, "Go watch table XYZ." Story 37. What constitutes criminal behavior for corporations versus criminal behavior for individuals? For example, steal a loaf of bread, go to prison, and steal $500 million by manipulating the market and get a $5 million fine. Story 38. Poor people making tiny mistakes with taxes or benefits, or even defrauding benefits for insignificant sums are often labeled as bad, criminal, and lazy. This scrutiny intensifies if they are also immigrants. On the other hand, rich people and the government embezzling millions or billions of taxpayers' money tend to receive a more indifferent reaction, often summarized with a lackluster meh. Story 39. People want to receive the best of the best but are unwilling to give or make any sacrifice whatsoever. And even if they do, they moan, complain, and sulk. Story 40. I had to do hours of anti-corruption training when I took a job at a big agency. All the signs to look out for, report, and stop were exactly how our government operates. Don't accept lavish gifts, have backdoor private conversations about policy, favorable contract assignments, closed-door negotiations, personal messaging to potential clients or bribers, literally a full house. In short, I am qualified to say we have a seriously corrupt government. Story 41. If you hate your minimum wage job, then quit. Wait, why doesn't anyone want to work? Why do I have to wait forever for service? Why is no one working here? Laughing out loud. Story 42. I'm a woman, and I'm aghast that people think a man should just sit and take it while a woman beats him up. Story 43. Women are able to have an experimental phase in college. However, it is unfair that if you engage in a single same-sex encounter, you are labeled as gay for life. Story 44. America has plenty of money to spend on war and subsidizing profits for billion-dollar corporations, but not enough money to feed, educate, or provide a decent standard of living for its people. Story 45. News articles say, female teacher had relations with a 15-year-old, as opposed to, male teacher outed as a pedophile. They are both pedophiles. Story 46. In the United States, members of Congress are exempt from insider trading laws. Also in the United States, current and former law enforcement officers can carry a concealed firearm in states and places where civilians are banned from carrying. Story 47, few 1,000 plus comments. But welfare. From small businesses to big corporations, many companies are eating out of hand like deer at a zoo, in numbers that are difficult to understand. Learn your illions, people. 1 million seconds, about 10 days. 1 billion seconds, about 30 years. 1 trillion seconds, about 30,000 years. Story 48. The criminal justice system has definitely 2 tiers. If you have money or power, you're good. If you don't, you're out of luck. Story 49. Have you seen the Nike runners' Olympic outfits? The men's uniforms are fine, but the women's are indecent. Story 50. I get 1 Big Mac and I eat it, but then I get 2 and I can't. Somebody needs to fix this double standard. Story 51. Dating shows that have an episode where the female contestant watches the men all take turns doing a striptease. Imagine the reaction if the tables were turned. Story 52. The student loan forgiveness had to be bypassed and was rejected by Congress, but those pandemic business loans were wiped clean immediately, even with obvious cases of fraud. Story 53. Being told you're too young when wanting to obtain permanent birth control or sterilization, but not too young to have a child. Story 54. The far right is falsely accusing transgender individuals of being child sex predators while defending a church they know employs child sex abusers. Story 55. It is wrong for a man to hit a woman, but a woman could literally beat a man severely in broad daylight in public, and people will often laugh and think it's funny or even mock him for getting beaten up by a woman. I find this incredibly infuriating, as well as the fact that there are pretty much no, or at least very few, domestic abuse support services for men. Story 56. Wanting your spouse to change their last name to yours, but refusing to even consider changing yours. Oh, they can hyphenate, so can you then? Story 57. Making 18-year-old men register for the draft in order to get financial aid for college but not women. Story 58. The wealthy benefit from Federal Reserve printing dollars. The poor are stuck in government-designed systemic poverty, while the middle class pays the highest tax rates. Additionally, we use money as the metric to determine someone's worth. Story 59. Dogs and cats are treated like relative royalty. All other animals endure some of the most horrific conditions imaginable for human greed and convenience. If you try to rescue a dog, you are a hero. If you try to rescue a factory farm animal, you may face prison time. Story 60. People who have serious disabilities are treated in one of two ways. 1. If you put in effort to manage your disability and appear capable, society responds by downplaying your disability. They suggest that you aren't really handicapped and deny you accommodation. 2. If you cannot or do not manage your disability, leading to pain, discomfort, and an unsavory appearance, society responds with revulsion. You are treated as a disturbance and avoided. Either way, you are deprived of a fair chance, receiving a mix of pity and animosity. When people do bad things to you, it feels like they are targeting you for your disability. When people do good things for you, it feels like they are pitying you for your disability. Story 61. When you are living in your van because you are rich, it is trendy. When you are living in your car because you are homeless, it is frowned upon. Story 62. Christian values as a whole. The same people who claim Christian values are often the most intolerant and bigoted. From not helping those in need to being outright sinners of all sinners. Not to make this political, but the idea that Trump is held in such high regards, despite being a multi-married, cheating husband, is crazy to me, not to mention all of his other faults.